The time-based model for consulting is collapsing.
Is this the death of the daily rate?
Basically, yeah. Always try to sell based on outcome. We need to speak the language of the people that we're selling to.
Is this a skill that anyone can learn?
The most important thing.
Ikum Kandola, multi-award-winning entrepreneur, ex-PwC AI researcher and co-founder of the AX.AI, creating AI-powered consultancy as a service. For those who don't know anything about AI and your mission, what is it and why is it so important now?
What we found basically is that with AI, consulting is getting much faster. A lot of things that could be done, things that couldn't be done before can now be done with AI. People have instant access to information, and because things are going so much faster, the time-based model for consulting is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas before, like PwC, they would charge people out for, I don't know, £500 an hour. They would do like 100 hours of a project. Now that project's no longer 100 hours. Now it might be 50 hours. They're finding their revenues being cut in half. So what we're doing is we built a platform to help consultancies perform outcome-led consultancy, so they can start charging based on outcome instead of just hours.
Yeah, let's break that down. Is this the death of the daily rate?
Basically, yeah. So not every daily rate is dying, because there are still some jobs that can't really be accelerated with AI. However, a lot of things which are text-based and go through a typical consulting process of data gathering, research, and then writing reports, all of this can be accelerated with AI. So in those cases, like the time-based model is under serious stress.
Yeah. And your time at PwC, you said you it taught you things that you had to unlearn. So what was the most important thing that you had to unlearn?
For me personally, as a founder, the most important thing was like about your age. I think when you come into PwC, it's very much like a hierarchical ladder. Mm-hmm. It's not really done on performance, to be honest. It's mainly done on how long you've been in the company. Instead of like promoting it on merit, they've just put more and more, they've just added more and more categories like within the same roles. Going from that into like founding a business, it's a completely different mental shift. You have to like escape the mindset of being told exactly what to do and like grinding a process. And you got to like flip it on its head and be the person that's actually like creating the process, and you're bringing other people in to help you in that way as well. We thought we knew a lot more than we really did. Even if we were right, it didn't really matter, because we need to speak the language of the people that we're selling to. And even if we've solved their problem, they don't really understand it until they understand it more if they can speak to someone on the same level as them, or who's gone through similar experiences and kind of can relate more.
Yeah, I really like what you said about speaking their language and being able to simplify things so that they land with the correct audience. How did you learn how to do that, not only in this role, but also why is it so important as well?
Yeah, it's really hard, to be honest. Like, say if you're doing maths, it's more straightforward what you need to do. You can go into a textbook, you can Google. But when you want to learn someone's language, it's not the same thing. There's not a set process to learning their language. I don't really think there's any replacement for actually speaking to them and getting the experience. And then it can take a year or a couple of years of speaking to them before you really can pick it up if you're coming from a completely different industry. Yeah. And then your second part about why you think it's so important, I think it comes down to human psychology. Trust is so important in startups. When you tell them the idea and you tell them, oh, they can do this, this and this, like logically they should buy it, because it's saving them so much money, or it's making them so much money, and you're telling them it works. Well, why don't they buy it? Because the reason is, like, a lot of startups do fail. Like they say in the first year, 90% of startups do fail. So yeah, in terms of human psychology, speaking their language helps them to trust you. And when you start speaking in a different way, or saying something that might prick their ears up and think, oh, that's like an unusual thing to say, that's not normal, it can affect their trust.
Yeah. And is this a skill that anyone can learn, or is it a skill that you're almost born with?
The only way that you would struggle to pick it up really is if you're so tied into how you speak currently and you can't change it. So I do think that if you're older, or if you've got a certain mindset that you're not willing to shift how you speak, then you will struggle in that way.
Because when you talk about building trust, it also comes down to building something that a small group absolutely loves rather than something that many people quite like. So when we speak about that, how did you learn that you should build something that loads of people love? And also, how do you test it?
You always avoid, like I say, the three F's, like friends, family, and fools, because they'll always give you like positive feedback. And what I found as well is that you don't want to get feedback from people who are not really going to use the app. I think what I'd recommend for a founder is to create a wait list before you launch any products. So start marketing like before you launch, and then create some posts, and then at the bottom of the post just put the link to a wait list. Try and get people on there, and then when you go to launch, or like when you're near launching, you can try and create a group of people from their wait list, and then conduct interviews with them, show them the early product, get feedback in that way. We had 2 marketing events of like launching before we actually launched, so we could get people to see the app and get their feedback. And we actually scrapped the first version of the app completely and redid it from scratch, based on feedback, really.
What was the feedback?
Well, it varied really. It was generally positive. Some people found like the UI hard to use. If a senior consulting person's using AI, and this is like a year or 2 back, and they don't know anything about AI, you have to really break it down for them.
Obviously, you did the Elevate Incubator. But given that experience and what you've seen since, what do you think incubators are fundamentally getting wrong, and how can we change that?
Starting with the negatives.
Well,
I don't want to say anything bad about Elevate, but no, I think Elevate was brilliant, to be honest. The first thing to do as a founder, especially like a young founder, is change your identity, to go from like a person that is used to being told what to do and everything to being a person that's creative and creating your own business. It's a huge mindset shift. And people talk about imposter syndrome a lot. I think it comes down to the identity. Like if you subconsciously don't believe that you can do it, then you will feel that imposter syndrome. So I think even just joining the incubator scheme, it's beneficial just to change your identity, just to make you see yourself as a founder, other people see you as a founder. When I joined, even though I wasn't that successful, even when I saw my friends and stuff, because they saw my post on LinkedIn, they saw I was in Elevate, and Elevate helped me get more traction. Then they would start to talk to me differently and say like, "Oh, how's your business going?" And they see me as like a founder and everything.
I've got one last question for you, and it's, what is the best personal or business advice you've just ever received?
Always try to sell based on outcome, because when you're in a job, you're never actually selling on outcome. You're always getting paid by hour. So the amount of value that you can add to the world is literally unlimited. But you're always limiting yourself by getting a job and restricting what you're doing like per hour. And when I saw that shift, I was watching like some social media influencers, and they were like living up in Dubai, and I thought, how on earth can somebody do that? They're so good that if they lost all of their social media following, within 6 months they can make it back. That is just true. That's how the economy works. But we're all trained like to not realize that. Say like you don't have to start a business, but in my opinion, I think everyone has their own business. Even when you're working a job, your business is just you're selling your time and you're getting paid an amount of money, and that is still like a business. Once you start to own it, then you start to think like a business. Then you start to see how a lot of people, they're just getting cash in from the job. It goes out to the mortgage. There's never actually any way for it for you to actually get rich, other than just like getting a salary slowly over time. So always sell an outcome, I would say.
Ikum, we have a closing tradition on this podcast.
Oh yeah?
Which is where the guest, regardless of who they are, answers this one question.
Oh yeah?
And that is, what is one message that you've never sent but you wish everyone would receive?
I would say the most important thing is like just be kind to people. A lot of people, they're so focused on their job, they don't realize like how much we already have. Yeah, we just need to be kind to people and make the world a better place, more than anything that technology can do.
Brilliant message. Ikum, Thanks so much for your time. I really love, first of all, what you're doing with infusing consultancy, an outdated sector, but with AI and bringing it into the 21st century. I think that the way that you've been able to articulate your thoughts on the future of AI as well and where that's going. So thanks so much for your time, and thank you for coming on Podfast.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I really, really enjoyed it.
Excellent.